Madam President, I rise today to urge my colleagues to join me in passing this House bill to improve the Syrian refugee resettlement program and take at least a first really important step toward protecting Americans here at home with regard to this refugee and homeland security question. Frankly, I think we should be going further, but given the gravity of the issue and the urgent need to address stated and documented shortfalls within the refugee program, I support passage of this bill as a start. You know, we can't just ignore the facts. And the fact is that those responsible, for instance, for the tragic attacks in Paris just a few short months ago took advantage of the influx of Syrian refugees into France. And at least one of them got in that way. And if that isn't disturbing enough, we must also remember the facts that the majority of the 9/11 attackers were granted admission to the U.S. on temporary immigration status. There were holes and problems in that program. Clearly, we need to update and reform the current systems in place. And I assure you that I won't stop pressing for complete and adequate safeguards as the President continues to invite additional refugees onto American soil. Voting in favor of this SAFE Act brings us one step closer to improving the security of our nation. It would be a mistake to retreat to some sort of pre-9/11 posture or mindset. 11 years ago, the 9/11 Commission report wrote that many of the vetting programs were, quote, dysfunctional, close quote. They remain dysfunctional in far too many cases, and I'm not willing to take on and continue the risk of that dysfunction. We need reforms. We need a far higher standard of safety and coordination. Now, again, these are facts we need to look at. We have seen examples of the refugee situation and other situations directly impacting and threatening our security. What am I talking about? Well, number one, on December 2nd of last year, husband and wife Saeed Farouk and Tashfeen Malik attacked the Inland Regional Center in San Bernardino. And their coordinated attack, inspired by ISIS, caused the death of 14. They wounded 21 others. As of now, it appears to be the most deadly terrorist attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. Now, the wife, Tashfeen Malik, was not a U.S. citizen and was, in fact, in the U.S. on a visa related to her husband. Particularly troubling is the fact that the government didn't verify her address in Pakistan during the visa application process. There are reports that a full vetting was not completed, including checking for other possible signs that she had been radicalized or was a terrorist operative. Fact number two, a recent FBI Joint Intelligence Bulletin has confirmed that individuals resettled in the U.S. as refugees have already been arrested for willfully providing material support and resources to the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, ISIS. That is documented, an FBI report. Clearly, this program is a vulnerability. Fact number three, the National Counterterrorism Center has identified individuals with ties to terrorists in Syria who attempted to enter the U.S. through the refugee program. Again, it's been verified that this is an entry point for possible terrorists. Fact number four, the horrible and coordinated assaults in Paris last fall, in the words of President Francois Hollande of France, was, quote, planned in Syria, organized in Belgium, perpetrated on our soil with French complicity, close quote. And a fact related to that, at least one of those terrorists got in through the refugee resettlement program there. Fact number five, FBI Director James Comey has testified that the federal government doesn't have the ability to properly and fully vet 10,000 or more Syrian refugees. Recently, during a hearing before the House Committee on Homeland Security, he stated, quote, we can only query against that which we have collected. And so if someone has never made a ripple in the pond in Syria in a way that would get their identity or their interest reflected in our database, we can query our database until the cows come home, but there will be nothing to show up because we have no record of them, close quote. And fact number 6, the reflections on the 10th anniversary of the 9/11 Commission report released in 2014 state that, quote, it is unclear whether the United States and its allies have sufficient resources in place to monitor foreign fighters' activities in Syria and neighboring Iraq and to track their travel back to their home countries, close quote. Those are documented facts which make perfectly clear what common sense should suggest. This refugee resettlement program is a vulnerability, and we need far better security to protect our homeland. To do this, I've introduced a very strong bill to require a suspension of admissions of Syrian refugees until the Obama administration properly evaluates the protocols and procedures it has in place to relocate them here and certifies, not just in the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of State, but also with intelligence and law enforcement agencies, that these procedures are adequate. My bill has 7 co-sponsors. I plan on continuing to move it, hopefully through an amendment process related to this bill, so that we can make sure that we have proper, adequate reforms in place. So that puts today's vote in simple, straightforward terms, in terms of the real danger. We can't properly vet all of these refugees right now. This is documented. This is from experts. We need to put proper measures in place before we continue accepting this flood of refugees. We need to protect American families, secure our borders, keep out all terrorists, and voting for the SAFE Act and voting to put it on the floor and engaging in this debate is an important first step in doing that. For that reason, I urge a positive vote to put this important measure on the floor and to pass it. Thank you, Madam President.